Kia ora, and welcome to Under the Checkered Flag. It is PozzA, Kelly, and Kate here today, and we're going to be digesting the Dutch Grand Prix. Before we jump into all of the action, I just want to talk about Friday. Well, I guess that is jumping into the action because it was still on track action, but it was an absolute crash fest. It's probably one of the crashiest weekends we've had so far this year. One other thing about Friday that I wanted to talk about is Cormac Buchanan's absolutely incredible save. He went full Marc Marquez style, looked like he was gonna, fully lose the bike, but he gets punted off the bike and then holds onto the handlebars with the rest of his body hanging off the side and brings it to a stop, jumps back on the bike, and carries on setting lap times. It was just quite sensational. But what did you guys think about Friday and the absolute crash fest?
I definitely found it pretty aggressive for just a couple of practice sessions. Generally, you'd expect a couple of crashes in, motorbike racing, but it was bad. I would still honestly expect it from Assen. It's kind of just a given that it would be quite bad for crashes, but it was just like, whoa. For Cormac, it was a pretty cool save, to be fair. He's had a couple of them this season. Every time MotoGP posts a cool save for Moto3, it's actually been Cormac, which is quite impressive by him. Unfortunate that it didn't really work out well for him for, the entire weekend, but that save then was pretty damn cool, and I don't think any of us could be able to pull that off.
It was raining in the morning, and that would have obviously taken there wouldn't have been any rubber on the track because it was the first session that was wet, but would have been cooler temperatures. It would have been harder to maintain tire temperature. I'm just thinking back to last year. I'm pretty sure we saw quite a few crashes as well last year during the practice sessions. So maybe it's just something with the track. At Assen it's always a quick track. If you have a crash, it's generally going to be pretty quick. So yeah, it wasn't amazing to see the amount of crashes. On the Friday, at least, I'm pretty sure everyone ended up being okay, which is always what you want to see.
Yeah, I think it was just a series of unfortunate events, and especially in Moto 3, where we ended up seeing oil on track and all the riders just crashing out one after the other. It was, yeah, pretty interesting, so to speak. But Moto 3 was some classic rubbing as racing. And if we look at the race, it didn't start well for Guido Pini. He stalled at the start of the race. Thankfully, he was avoided. Carpe got away great, but was punted wide by some other riders and ended up down in 15th on the second lap. But in true Carpe style, he did recover and finish in 4th place. The ending was quite dramatic, and we saw a red flag, which led to the results being taken from the end of lap 18. This was due to an incident between Tayo Ferrasado, Adrian Fernandez, and Luca Lanetta, with Lanetta coming into contact with other riders while on the ground. Well, their bikes. We can confirm that he is going to be alright. He does have multiple leg fractures, but given the severity of the accident and what we saw, I'm pretty thankful it wasn't worse. The podium was Peroni and this was his debut podium, David Munoz and Rueda. I do want to touch a bit on the red flag after, but Moto3, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a bit of a what the hell kind of race for me. I definitely found it enjoyable, and it was the only race that I actually got to watch live. So honestly, the amount of crashes in this race were quite scary, and they all happened in around the same time. Like there'd be moments where you'd have like 5 laps in between where absolutely nothing would happen, and then rider down, rider down, rider down. Highly aggressive crashes as well. Loads of hide sides. Irritating for Peony, absolutely. I definitely think he could have done better if he actually bloody started. But whose fault is that? Well, I think we all know what crash we found scariest. I think that's a given, really. Pity for Cormac Buchanan, who, as I mentioned, after his save on Friday, just got taken out. Got taken to medical, all okay, but just quite irritating because I think he could have done quite well and got himself a few points as well. But yeah, I think scariest moment of that entire weekend was just the Luca the Neta crash, which I'm sure we will talk about more in a minute. But shout out to Scott Ogden, P7, points, guys. I'm telling you, that podium is absolutely incoming. I don't care what you say. You can call me delusional. It's coming. That podium is coming. And shout out to David Munoz for committing absolutely no terrorism whatsoever and coming second overall.
Yeah, it was definitely an exciting Moto3 race, as it always tends to be around Assen. Another good result for Jose Antonio Rueda, increasing his championship lead by quite a lot in the end. David Munoz managed to get second, and he didn't. Honestly, he didn't even make any over the top moves in a close group race, which is always good to see. The only non-Spaniard in the top 6 was also the top rookie, Valentin Peroni, in P3. A good result for the Tech 3 rider. It's always good to see new riders fighting for the podium. Alvaro Carpe was the next rookie behind him in 4th. Max Quiles was also in the points as the last rookie. He did crash, I think, on the second last lap, but because of the red flag, he was reinstated in 15th. And a total of 9 riders failed to finish, which wasn't great to see. 8 of them are crashes, and one of them was obviously Guido Pini, who had a clutch issue before the start. So obviously not ideal for the Italian. But yeah, it's good to see that Luca Lunetta was majorly okay after that last corner crash. It's not one that you want to see often, but unfortunately that's kind of just the way that last corner is at Assen. We've seen those crashes happen before at that corner, and the one that I'm thinking of, everyone was okay as well, so that's at least something positive about it. But yeah, hopefully you can be back on the bike soon and racing again.
So let's talk a bit more about that crash. Well, not the crash itself specifically. I want to talk about the red flag, because we see the incident occur and it's shown live as it happens, as in the cameras were pointed at it as it happened. Anyone watching could tell that it was a big one. As standard, the race carries on, and I understand that race direction do want the race to continue, as when they call that red flag, given the amount of laps completed, then the race would be over. They've got to gather all the data from the marshals about the rider condition and things like that. So there's all of those things at play, but I want to know if the two of you thought the red flag was called at the correct time.
I don't know what was going on there, but Simon Crayfire, I understand we put all our trust in you, but I don't know if you have any control over that. But what the hell, Simon? What was that? Yeah, it's just not really giving, mate, is it really? Your rider got run over and you're just gonna let them keep going. There's a guy on track. There's a guy on track who's been run over. Why are the bikes still going at full speed? Think about that. Like, seriously, are you really, in the nicest way possible, are you that dense? Is it really that hard to decide whether you should keep bikes going after there's been a guy run over by his back on his back? It's just not a hard decision to make at all. And in that regard, it's nearly becoming worse than F1 stewarding, and I can go on for a long time about that, but it was quite bad, and I'm just really not happy about it, to be honest. It was very, very, very bad.
Yeah, I believe I saw someone on Twitter saying that it should have been red flagged in around the second sector, which is something that I do agree with. I feel like as they were it I didn't mind them trying to get the result in the end, but I feel like it should have been red flagged at least by turn 11 sort of thing. So it's actually sector 3, but yeah, obviously when these sort of things happen, rider safety comes first, and I definitely don't think it should have been left as late as essentially as they were breaking into the last corner, especially because it was enough. They left enough time for David Munoz to make 2 overtakes as well. So hopefully this is a learning moment that they can improve on in the future.
I agree with you both. I think that the red call flag came too late. It was obviously quite a serious incident, and rider safety has to come first. Absolutely. They can't be almost on top of the riders when they call that red flag, because as we saw with David Munoz taking an overtake, as the red flag starts waving, they need a little bit of time to react because they might not see it instantly. That just doesn't happen. But looking at Moto2, something that I'm extremely happy happened is Diogo Moreira taking his first win. He's finally done it. He's provided us with some great racing in 2025, and it's rewarded him with this first Moto2 Grand Prix victory. He finished ahead of Aaron Canet and Manu Gonzalez, and yeah, that was the podium. It's a pretty standard podium that we have been seeing this year, but I'm actually really enjoying the battle between the three, and obviously the title battle between Canet and Gonzalez is really interesting, and I do still think Gonzalez has the upper hand, but Canet's doing better than I expected him to be honest. I was also pretty impressed with Jake Dixon this weekend. I was hoping for him to be fighting up the front a bit more this year, but fourth is a pretty solid result. What did the two of you think about Moto2?
Enjoyable, I'd say. Definitely enjoyable in some ways, and in other ways it wasn't. But once again, really, really bad for crashes. Only 17 classified finishers, same as Moto3. It's just very, very aggressive. One person who I actually was really sad over, who I really wanted to do well and was doing well, is Ivan Ortola. He was running in P4 for a lot of it, and then he was just gone. Bye bye. And it was just devastating, actually. I wasn't very happy about it. I wasn't happy at all. I'm really happy that both Zonta van der Gorberg and Colin Vire finished in the points in their home race. That's all I could have asked for. Um, being a fan of both of them at this point in the season is quite hard. Colin's just back from injury and is new to Moto2, and Zonta is just generally not very fast. And to see them both finishing the points for me, it was just great. I was really happy about it. Made me happy. One person who actually genuinely, Moreira's win caught me off guard. He'd start P2 and finish P2, but to win, just really happy about that. Not good for my predictions, but aside from that, from what I wanted in my heart, it was great, and I'm really happy it happened. Yeah, overall quite fun. Not really for pause, I think, with the DNFs, but I had a good time watching it at least.
Yeah, obviously, as Kelly mentioned there, my guy Dennis Onju crashed, but honestly, I wasn't majorly disappointed just because he managed to find his way back into the weekend after being, I think it was 22nd on Friday, it being his first time at this track on a Moto2 bike. So the fact that he managed to make it into Q2, honestly, I would have taken that alone. Then qualified 10th and at one point was fighting for the podium. I think that shows that he's made some good progress in the recent weeks. Aside from that, I feel like the only other thing that really needs covering, the rookies, as always. Top rookie once again was Danny Holgado in P10, taking home 6 points. Colin Vire was also in the points in 14th, so good points for the home rider. Not a rookie, but Zonta van der Gorberg as well. He was in the points in 12th, so it's good to see both of the Dutch riders getting points. And again, he's not a rookie, but I'm going to shout him out anyway. Zonta van der Gorberg's teammate, Ayumu Sasaki, scored scored a point in 15th as well, which was, I believe, his first of the season. So it's good result for him.
Looking at MotoGP, because on Saturday we had the sprint and Fabio Quartararo, I don't know how he keeps doing it and sticking it on pole position. He had a great start, but was unable to translate it into a result as he crashed out of this race. It's a real shame. He just lost the front, and I keep waiting for that Yamaha to improve, but while it is improving, it's not nearly as quickly as I'd like them to. The KTMs did look good this weekend, and Maverick Vinales looked really strong. But our podium had Marco Bezzecchi, MP3, and our standard top two of Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez. It was a reasonable sprint. Overall, I'm happy to say that the Grand Prix did make it more in my brain this weekend, which is quite good because at the start of the season I felt like the sprints were more exciting, but now the Grand Prix are like ramping up a bit. Those are my thoughts though. How about you two?
Honestly, I'm more focused on the fact that it was a pretty good weekend for me as a Marco Bezzecchi fan. I feel like that man is absolutely coming back. I knew at the start of the season it would take him some time to adjust to an Aprilia, but it feels like he's definitely taking it on his chins now. And yeah, you know what? He's beating his world championship teammate. Where is he? I don't see him. Sorry, that's really mean. Sorry, that was yeah. But just as a Bezzecchi fan, it's just so nice to listen to and watch. And I waited a while for it. Okay, I waited a while because last season was pretty dire to be watching. And yeah, it's nice to see him near the podiums and near the top step again. But enough glazing him. Of sprint didn't find as enjoyable. It's kind of just the same as every other weekend. It's kind of just there. Not much happened apart from Fabio Quartararo. It feels like he puts all his energy into qualifying, and then his Grand Prix and his sprint just doesn't really work out for him. So I think he needs to learn how to levy out his energy a bit more because it's just not really working. Fabio, it's not working for me. And I would like to say that Joan Mir has crashed. Wow, pick it up, mate, please. Come on. All I want is points. I don't want much. I don't want to win. Just some points, please. That's all I want.
Yeah, it was another sprint where I kind of didn't really remember much occurring throughout the field. I don't really feel like in this case it's much of an issue with the sprint format as it is. I just feel like the bikes are probably getting a bit too quick and it's like really hard to overtake at the track. So hopefully that's something we see sort of rectified when the 850s come in, because obviously Assen's a great track and it's great to see close racing, which we didn't. We got close racing, but there weren't many overtakes made at the front, especially. So aside from that, Fermin Aldeguer, rookie in the points in seventh in the sprint. Agura and Chantra both struggled a fair bit and weren't really anywhere close to the points. So, looking like Aldeguer could. It's very likely that he'll be Rookie of the Year this season, I believe. So, yeah.
The Sunday Grand Prix. It was pretty solid. I always come into Assen with super high expectations thanks to a certain race in 2018 that Poz knows I never shut up about. I recommend everyone watches that race. But overall, this weekend was not an all-time classic, but it also wasn't bad, and I did really enjoy it. We did have quite a high attrition rate with only 16 riders finishing, which is never fun to see. But what is ideal for me is the fact that I am an LCR fan, and Somkiat Chantra has scored his first MotoGP point. I'm very happy for him, and being a rookie must be so challenging. Being a rookie on a Honda must be pretty much akin to torture. We did see a few incidents, and one of them was quite a scary and bizarre incident between Pedro Acosta and Alex Marquez. During some contact, and they were aggressively racing, but nothing, overly aggressive. But during this contact, Acosta's body catches Alex Marquez's brake lever and crashes him out of the race. Alex Marquez does have a broken left hand, which we're coming into the Saxon ring, so that's really unfortunate. He is undergoing surgery. By the time you're listening to this, he's probably been through surgery. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery because he is looking super strong this season. And the fact he's pretty much Mark's only challenger, we definitely want him back. It was another strong weekend for Maverick Vinales, but the podium this weekend was Pecco Bagnaia, Marco Bezzecchi and Marc Marquez. Kelly, over to you. As you said, Saturday was a great result for Marco Bezzecchi, so you'll also be very happy with this result.
Bloody delighted, yeah. Like I said before, I'm so happy to see him back on that level. A lot of people doubted him in between, and I admit I did a little bit as well. But he came back and proved everyone wrong, and I'm just so proud that he did. One person who I unfortunately can't crop top this weekend is Franco Morbidelli, because he didn't actually do anything bad other than be useless when it comes to track limits. That resulted in a long lap penalty, but it just didn't really affect where he was. So he finished the race in P7, boo. But he finished behind the Gian Antonio, which I'm happy with. Once again, the DNFs weren't that bad today, but they were still quite bad, with only 16 classified finishers and Aleix Espargaro being the only one to finish outside the points. Quite happy for Chantra to get his one singular little point. Might be a bit of a Logan Sargent situation, we'll see. But happy for him to get that at least. Unfortunate for Mir to crash again this weekend. That was caused by Aldeguer, but once again, I'd like to remind people, please don't go mental. Aldeguer is a rookie. He makes mistakes. All rookies make mistakes. Not the end of the world. Mir was chill with it. He chatted with Aldeguer after. All is chill between them. It is fine. Yeah, just really unfortunate for Alex Marquez as well, because as Kate said, he is way better this season, and to have an injury like that mid-season, it's not exactly ideal. And I'm pretty sure the Saxon Ring was one of his first podiums or one of his first podiums in a while. I can't quite remember the stat, but to be injured right before that race is quite. It's just not very fun, is it? And Ayagura was taken out by Miguel Oliveira at the start, and I'm pretty annoyed about that, because I thought Agura could put up a pretty good result this weekend, and that was taken away by Oliveira. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the race. Quite entertaining. Predictable winner, but Marco Bezzecchi P2.
Yeah, at least at the front, it was Mark having to push until the very end, being pushed until the very end. It wasn't one where he just kind of runs away with it. So that's something, at least. It was good to see the KTM's doing well yet again. Pedro Acosta was 4th, Maverick Vinales was 5th, and Enea Bastianini popped up in 9th. We had 4 manufacturers in the top 10, so 4 out of 5 of them. I feel like that's pretty decent going. Obviously, we had the Ducatis, the Aprilias, or some Aprilias, KTM, and the Yamaha. So, yeah, good to see. At least behind the Ducatis, it's generally quite competitive. Ralph Fernandez has honestly been pretty strong lately. He was 8th in this race, so it's good to see more than just Marco Bezzecchi making the Aprilia work to some degree. And yeah, obviously unfortunate for the 6 riders that crashed even. And yeah, the only other thing to mention, in my opinion, is again Somcat Chantra in the points. Only rookie to score points in the race, which is kind of incredible. And he did it. I'm going to say he did it on pure pace, just because he managed to close down Aleix Espargaro and pass him late on. It's not like he had Espargaro crash in front of him. So, yeah, good effort from Somcat. It's good to see that he's finally got a point under his belt.
Let's look at social media this weekend, because social media plays a big part in the way we consume content and news. This weekend we saw some interesting takes, let's say. While I do want to avoid slandering journalists, I know some of us have some thoughts on some of the content we saw at the weekend. Does anyone want to share theirs?
Unlike UK, I'm not against slandering journalists. I know you don't want to name names, so I won't, but trust me, I have no problem doing that myself, and if I could, I bloody well would. I don't even know how to refer to this said person. I will refer to this man as Jeff. So Jeff is a pretty prominent, let's say, journalist. He's quite well known in the paddock. He's known by riders. He had some pretty bad takes this weekend, let's be honest. He made a bunch of comments about Alex Marquez recently, like, why is he not fighting his brother? This, that, the other, and then goes on an entire tangent about, like, people love to twist my words and make me seem like a horrible person because that's the way social media is. Jeff, I'm sorry. If you're going to talk about bad about riders, you are going to get dissed. he just made a bunch of comments about Rogers that I feel like are entirely unfair, and he's quite a headspace where he believes that he's never wrong. But I've yapped on long enough. If Kate and Poz have anything to say, then I say go for it.
I'm fairly sure Poz doesn't. It is quite frustrating when we see well-known journalists using their platform to, I guess, petition their own thoughts and stick to that. It's frustrating. There's no doubt about that. But what is less frustrating is the final segment of our podcast that happens each week. We have a race, and that is our rider of the weekend. So there were quite a few riders that we could shout out. This weekend, I'll start because my rider of the weekend has to be Marc Marquez. I've been trying to avoid putting him, and I do generally go for Moto2 and Moto3 riders because it's a lot more interesting. But Marc crashed twice this weekend, and they were pretty hearty crashes. One of them was into the gravel where he hit a very sensitive area and was in obvious discomfort, but he goes on to top the sessions and win the sprint and the Grand Prix. Yeah, just a sensational weekend. What about you two? Who do you have as your riders of the weekend?
Thing is, I've low-key struggled to choose just one specifically. I promise it's not much, so I'll kind of try like mix mash it. Marco Bezzecchi, MotoGP is my overall rider of the weekend. I think that's quite obvious. I know some people are like, but he didn't win this, that, the other. Hello. He's not Marc Marquez, let's be honest. He's not on a factory Ducati. He is on an Aprilia, who, as we've seen last year and at the start of this year, is slow, unreliable, and sometimes just blows up. So the fact that he's able to get such a result out of that, I think, is highly impressive and takes some severe talent. And I'm very proud of him. So that is my rider of the weekend, along with a mention of Weyer and Van de Gorberg, only because they're Dutch and they're at their home Grand Prix and they scored points, and I'm very happy about it. Doesn't really count. I just wanted to say it again because it makes me very happy. But yeah, overall rider of the weekend, Marco Bezzecchi. Hell yeah, dude, keep it going.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a Moto3 rider just to be a bit different. I feel like I have a good reason for this. I'm gonna go for Jose Antonio Rueda just purely because obviously he went from pole to the race win, but it's mainly because of how much he's increased his championship lead now. He's now got a 69-point lead over Alvaro Carpe, his teammate, and a 70-point lead over Angel Piqueras. So he's quite far ahead in the standings on 187 points to Carpe's 118. We've seen leads like this go before, but I have a feeling that Rueda will be comfortable enough and be able to hold this on for the rest of the year. Obviously, for the sake of excitement, we'd like it to be a bit closer, but he's just dominated the opening part of the season so far, so I feel like he'll continue it on.
We have yapped enough this week. So next week we are going to be covering Jorge Martin and everything that's blown up in that space a bit, and the news that he will not be returning in Germany. We're also going to be covering the fact that BMW have not renewed their contract for safety car and what we think this means for BMW coming to MotoGP. For now, have a wonderful week and we'll talk to you next week.